imagine a therapist being like, oh, you know what? I understand that you're really hurt from like the abuse that you had to deal with later, but you punched a person in the face. So we're going to stop there. That's it. I'm not going to go to try to further your healing or anything like that. I'm going to stop the conversation right here because you did something that you shouldn't have. And that's just crossing the line.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
Taylor, Chaz.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How's your day going?
It's going all right. Busy.
Back to school stuff.
I know. Yeah. Tons of it. So a lot of meetings right now.
Well, for our listeners, this is our good friend, Chaz.
Good friend and brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Yes. Taylor's brother-in-law.
Yep.
We're just going to talk about some stuff.
Yeah.
Some stuff with life and the current goings on of Black Lives Matter movement and mental health, teaching.
Yeah.
Just kind of run the gambit and just hopefully have a great conversation.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah.
So, Chaz, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Chaz. Obviously, I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for the last 8. This will be my 9th year starting when the school year starts. I started kind of late as a teacher, actually. I didn't start until I was about 28-ish, 27. I can't remember exactly when, but I don't know. It was just kind of a calling for me. I really wanted to be able to help kids and to guide kids and to, mold young minds, help them to make good decisions and everything. I started off actually as a soccer coach for high school, and that's where I kind of first loved that I like creating that relationship and helping to, motivate them and inspire them and everything. And then I just turned that into teaching, and I teach math. Like I said, I've got a love for math. I am definitely a nerd. Maybe not as much as some other people, but I don't know. I love math. You'll find me making math jokes. No, I probably should have worn one of my math shirts today. I was thinking about it, but it's like, I'll try to look a little bit more professional than that. So, but yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
Do.
Thank you.
So, Chaz, we've talked a little bit about what's going on in the world with all the Black Lives Matter movement and kind of where I feel like where both of us kind of stand on it. It's kind of funny to say because this has been going on forever. and it's just now kind of, well, not just now, but like now in our lifetimes is one of the times where the spotlight's on it again. And hopefully actual change will come from it. We were just talking about like different episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and like even the Golden Girls that I saw like this meme go through the other day, which is, 50 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with these issues. So is it like frustrating to see like that kind of stuff was being addressed back then even? And does it feel like things have changed since then?
I don't know. I don't necessarily find it frustrating just because it's kind of weird. I feel like it's almost just become a part of life now, which I know isn't good to say, but, like I said, we've talked a lot about this kind of stuff. And for me, really, I think my biggest goal in most of this is to have a conversation with someone, I know that people have their thoughts and everything, but I feel like if you sit down and you actually talk to someone, that's a person of color specifically in some of these issues, and it's not that everyone will agree with me, but like the more people you talk to, the more I feel like you're going to kind of have a better understanding of the situation that's happening in America for a long time, And so I don't know, like the Black Lives Matter movement, I like what they're trying to accomplish. I've read their charter and everything like that. I'm not going to necessarily say that I agree with everything that they do, but for the most part, I think in order to get change, you've got to ruffle some feathers at times, and it's not the best way always, but like it's just what happens. I know most people like to quote Martin Luther King, especially at times like this, and it's just, to me, I feel like you don't understand like how much he was trying to break down a system at times, and so it's nice to quote him with his beautiful words that I mean, they inspire me. But I mean, what he was doing was not easy, and it was not well liked. He was very much hated for what he did. And I feel like that was one of the things that kind of changed my life. And I mean, just to go on, I mean, Martin Luther King, to talk about that is another thing that I should talk about with teaching. The reason why I started teaching so late is because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I was an intelligent kid. I think I had like a 3.5, somewhere around there, GPA or whatever. I started off going to college for engineering, and that was great. I found out I wasn't very good at programming because I wanted to make video games, because, nerd again. But I found out I wasn't very good at programming. And so it kind of made me like step back and try to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I don't know. I remember trying to work different jobs. I worked at Sam's Club for a little while. And working in retail, I'm sure anybody that works in retail can tell you how challenging it is to deal with customers. Part of what I felt like was bad was, you don't really get dressed up to go to work. And so people don't view you or respect you because they kind of look down on you on just the way that you, like the attire that you essentially wear when you go to work. So then I wanted to do something where it's like I had to dress up nicely every day, So I started working at a hotel and everything like that. And I thought that the results would be different. It wasn't too different. I mean, I guess there were less confrontations at the hotel, but it wasn't quite it. And I remember during Martin Luther King Day in January, they had one of those like history films playing, and I was watching people, legally get, fire hoses sprayed on them and dogs like sicked on them, you know what I mean, and biting them and everything like that. And all these people were trying to do was, sit at a restaurant or walk down the street with a group of people, and ask for a little bit of change so that they could be treated more fairly. And I mean, I remember watching people essentially dying just so that they could have an equal opportunity in America. And that was kind of the moment where I really reflected on myself, and I said, I am smart enough to get an education. I'm smart enough to get a degree. I'm smart enough to do more than what I'm doing right now. So, I really need to find a way to use all of these things that I was given in a better way. And I really, in order to honor the people, what they did in the past, I should be going to college right now. I should get an education because, they died for that, right? And I'm not doing it because I'm being lazy at this moment in time. It was kind of tough for me. So that was really one of the things that sent me back to school. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of history that comes when you're like a person of color and you feel like you have to, I don't know, live up to something, or sometimes it's like not live up to something. I mean, I remember in high school, there were a lot of stereotypes out there about like what Black people were. And I remember being called like the whitest Black person,
Yeah.
And so like that caused a lot of confusion in my identity when I was younger. So I don't know. It's just, there's just a lot of work to do. I don't necessarily get frustrated because, it's kind of what it is, but I don't know. I do wish that there was more change. I wish that we didn't have those types of stereotypes that we just, expected people to have. I wish that we did all have equal opportunities from the start. I mean, we end up talking about systemic racism. You can go forever in like how that has led people into bad situations and everything like that. But I don't know. I don't necessarily get frustrated. I want something to happen. I want something to change. And so I'm really proud of them getting out there and protesting and speaking on behalf of people that are, underprivileged and everything like that. But I don't know. There's just so much work to do. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, So
yeah. Do you feel like being a person of color, like, do you feel the pressure ever to like take the work on like yourself, like, and like how does that has that affected like your mental health and like any sort of way?
I mean, so like I said in high school, yeah, the stereotypes were tough. Because like I said, I'm a math nerd for one, which wasn't typical. I play soccer, played soccer all my life. I coach soccer now. And that wasn't typical, and so there's just a lot of things that I did that wouldn't be considered typical, and then I feel like that's where the rumors kind of came from, or not the rumors, but like the talk of, the whitest black kid that kind of came from, is because I'm doing all of these things that don't fit into this black stereotype. And so for me, a lot of things that I did to counteract that is, I know I've heard some people, I think the term that they use is called like code switching kind of thing, which is, depending on where I'm at, I feel like I can talk black, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And then I can talk, white if I need to. And so I learned that skill in high school, essentially. And I mean, and I don't want to say like it's only like white people that do this. Like I partially learned that skill because like when I go to family reunions, you know what I mean? When I speak well, like, oh, wow, you're white kind of thing, or you go to like this really good school or something like that, or you're really intelligent just because of the way that I speak. And so it's like, I mean, I understand that it kind of comes from both sides, but I wasn't hearing that as much from my family as I was from the kids every day in school at the same time. So that kind of made it tough, and it made me do other things. So my dress was another thing that I could change. So if you look at high school pictures of me, you won't see me in like polo shirts or anything like that, or I would never have worn this in high school. I was wearing clothes like FUBU, for us, by us kind of thing, or anything baggy. My jeans were always baggy. Like I rarely ever wore shorts kind of thing, unless I wore like athletic type gear, So it was just, I don't know. I would say that was one of the things that kind of worked on my mental health, is because I was trying to define who I was based on how like other people were looking at me, like I wanted to be black. So I thought if I dressed in this way, I can't act, like I've got to get good grades. My parents will like, beat me essentially. But like I've got to get good grades. I love playing soccer. I'm not going to quit those things, but so I can't change those things about me, but like I can change the way that I talk, and I can change the way that I dress. Yeah. So that I look like I'm black and everything like that. It was just funny to say.
So a lot of push and pull.
Right. Yeah.
Like from every direction.
From every direction. Yeah. Kind of like, like, okay, I need to act this way around these people, because if I don't act like this, they're going to call me the whitest black person they know. But like, when I go here, I need to make sure that I can speak,
Yeah.
Like,
and you said that phrase, the whitest black person, several times now. And like how did that make you feel?
In high school, to be honest, I never really understood it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's kind of the part of the personal growth that has to happen. In high school, people said that, and I just like, oh, whatever, like, okay, here, I'll do these other things so that I could be black, you know what I mean? So that I can feel a part of the black community or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got older that I started to realize, like, and, out drinking with friends and everything like that. And then someone says it, and you're like, you know what? Like, this is why this is hitting me wrong, is because right now, what you're saying is that, like, I don't have to worry about being stereotyped, right? Because I'm the whitest black kid, or like there were kids that'd be like, I'm blacker than you because you know more rappers than I do, or something like that. And it's like, you know what? If we were to go into a random community right now, and I don't know, I walk down the street, in one way, and you walk down the street, like the way that people treat us is going to show you exactly who's black right now. So what the misinterpretation here is that, like, there is nothing that I can do to not be black. Like, I am black. I am a black math nerd that plays soccer. You know what I mean? And that might not fit the stereotype of what you see, but like most of the time, stereotypes aren't even true. They're just things that people see a few times and they believe it. Yeah. And then they want to see it every time. So, so.
Man, I can't imagine how tough that would be, because it's just so heartbreaking for me to hear that it's like, this group of people is pulling you this way, this group of people is pulling you this way, but no one's just lifting you up for who you are. Yeah. Which is a soccer playing math nerd. You know what I mean? Yeah. No one's just like backing you up on that and just like celebrating that about you. Man, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And to be fair, my friends, for the most part, like my close group of friends, I guess you would say, for the most part, they were the ones that were lifting me up. They were the ones that loved me for me, kind of thing. It was kind of like those You know, you have those close friends, and then you have like that little group that's like just outside. They're not like the people you call every day, but you know, you're going to hang out with them and you're going to see them in high school. And it's kind of like that group that, you know, you feel like you have this pressure, and like peer pressure. Everybody knows peer pressure is a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, that's what's happening all of a sudden, like all the time, essentially in high school is like, oh, there's this peer pressure to be more black, you know what I mean? Or to basically be cast out somehow. I don't know. It was a weird feeling. And it took me growing up essentially and getting away from high school to understand, hey, you know what? This is who you are. You can be proud of like who you are. They can make fun of you if you want to for it, but so
how did you, or can you kind of expand on the story of like settling into your identity? Like this is who I am, and like I like and love that person, or like can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily how it happened. It was kind of like a day at a time, type of thing. You know, you're just, I mean, when I was young, like I said, when I figured out that I wasn't going to be a video game designer, right? Like, then it was kind of like, okay, well, who are you going to be? And I think it was during that time that I had a lot of reflection on like, okay, well, what are the things that you want to do? What are the things that you like? How can you pursue like your happiness in life? And that's where I kind of started to understand, like, you know what, like I like comic books. Like I'm a huge Martian Manhunter fan. You know what I mean? Which is, I mean, most people don't even know who that is because he was left out of the Justice League for whatever reason. The movie, you know, I know. Yeah, I'm still triggered by that. You can see right now, but
he was one of the coolest though.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like it took me a while to figure out, like, you know, this is who I am. Like, I don't like to play basketball. I am a terrible basketball player. I'm not a football. I am a soccer player. You know, like that's what I'm good at. I'm a math nerd. I really enjoy teaching math and like learning new math facts and everything like that. And that's who I am. And so it took me basically the ability to grow up and to reflect into myself and to say like, okay, well, what is it that you want from this life? And in order to know what you want, you got to know who you are first, kind of thing. So,
yeah, that's really good. I love that because it's more just like, I think we've talked about it a few times too, where it's kind of like you have to take care of your own personal mental health before you can really even enjoy what the world has for you, and like, you know, and like situations and relationships.
Definitely.
That's thanks for sharing that story. First of all, that's
awesome.
Yeah, it is really inspiring. So like one of the things that I kind of wanted to separate, at least just for myself, is like the Black Lives Matter organization versus the movement.
Okay. Yeah.
And like, for me, I really agree with the movement.
Right.
The organization, I haven't done nearly enough research into, and like, there's a lot of controversy with it. But the movement, I think, is incredible, and it's really good.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
You know,
definitely.
So yeah, like, do you want to just kind of speak on that and like what it's like to see it? Is it kind of like one of those things where you're like, oh, another like flare up of this, and you're kind of like almost pessimistic about it, or are you kind of more, do you find yourself more optimistic about it? And when I say pessimistic, I just mean like, you've seen it so many times and you've experienced it, and you know.
For me, what I like most about the most recent movement is the scale. And I feel like change happens slowly, and there's typically like a tipping point. You know, for years, you know, we were segregated and everything was fine, except for there was these minute, small things that cause frustration. You know what I mean? And over time, it's like it just picks up and picks up and picks up until it gets to a boiling point, and then you get to have like your civil rights movement, essentially. You know, and I feel like, you know, we've been talking about like the Black Lives Matter organization, I think, started with Trayvon Martin, you know, and so that was back in 2012. That was 8 years ago. And I remember discussing with friends like the frustration of what happened. And like, you know, this is a kid who's basically being stalked by an adult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this adult has no authority.
Yeah.
Like, and the expectation then is that even though he could be a suspect in something, that he's supposed to give up his rights to this adult.
Right.
You know what I mean? That he doesn't know, in a place where he could have been just as scared as that guy was. You know what I'm saying? And then that guy gets to like murder him and then walk away because, and you know, we get to delve into Trayvon's past or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't matter what he stole.
Yeah. Well, people love to justify the actions of these so-called like vigilantes.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he did this or he did this at some point or like whatever. Yeah. And it's just like, this is a human being. Right. This is a person. I mean,
he was a kid.
Yeah.
He was a kid, you know?
What about their rights? What about their like opportunity for any sort of justice, you know, or any sort of due process? Like where did it go?
Right. I mean, I just can't imagine, you know, like imagine you're like a 16-year-old walking down the street and a person tells you to stop.
Right.
That is not, you know, a police officer and is saying like, I'm going to like arrest you. Like, what would you expect the reaction to be from that kid? You know what I mean? Like if it was my daughter or son, like I would expect them to get away from that situation. Because I mean, yes, you respect cops, right? Like it's going to be one of the lessons, the talk that I'll have to have with my kids eventually, you know, but at the same time, this person wasn't a cop.
Yeah.
So we can't just allow anybody to come up to our kid and just be like, well, you will do what I say. That's not, no, you have rights.
Yeah.
And I would expect them to get out of that situation. And to me, you know, what happened next was that this man got to keep his life and this kid didn't. And then there was no justice, you know? And so I don't know, this has been going on for, like I said, like a while that they've been trying to get the movement. And so it's, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like the snowball effect, right? Where we're just Trayvon Martin, it was very much split for whatever reason, which I don't understand why, but it was very much split. And so then it like happens again, you know, you have like your Eric Garners and your, you know, gosh, man, I can't remember all the names. Freddie, I can't remember, but either way, you have like your Eric Garners and, you know, all these other situations that are happening. And then especially now, I mean, part of the reason I feel like George Floyd was so big is because the amount of people, because you had Ahmaud Arbery just before then, you know, running, you know, and like, and now we're trying to delve into his past. Well, was he stealing something? And I feel like people are not understanding the problem, which is, for one, these people weren't cops.
Yeah.
Like, and if they were, they weren't on duty. You know, you don't have the right to do that. Like that, if we're going to have a police system that's supposed to work, then it shouldn't be that some people get to not use it because they feel like they can be vigilantes. You know what I mean? And other people have to use it because if I do that, you know what I mean? I have to worry about coming into a situation now where the cops don't view me as the person that's trying to correct something. They view me as a person that's instigating a problem. You know, it's just a weird situation. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful because the snowball effect, you know, the more that it happens, the more awareness that we bring, we can understand that, you know, there are some things that just need to be fixed within our system.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's what people are neglecting is that, and it's what takes away when you start talking about, you know, rioters and looters. Like I understand, I mean, I don't agree with rioting or looting, but I don't live in those communities either. So I'm not seeing excessive force on a daily basis. You know, they're going to be angry because they're dealing with this and it's happening in their communities and it's happening to people that they love.
Yeah.
And you know what? Sometimes like people aren't going to react the way that you want them to.
Yeah. And especially with, you know, with pain and grief, like I feel like there's such a lack of empathy from people who either haven't experienced pain or loss or haven't experienced some sort of bigotry or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like to say like, oh, these people are just angry and blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Like you would, wouldn't you? Like,
yeah. Like, it's a lack of trying too. Just a lack of even wanting to understand where someone else is coming from.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the part that's just such a tragic thing in and of itself is why don't people just want to understand like the anger and the pain and like what you like people of color have been going through
for centuries,
forever. Yeah. And it's, that's the part that's just really sad for me.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. It's just, I don't know. Again, that's why I say for the most part, the things that I want to have is conversation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you don't have to necessarily agree with everything, and that's fine. Like if I were to talk to people that were rioting and looting, I probably wouldn't agree with the rioting and looting.
Sure.
But that doesn't stop me from trying to understand like what's happening. You know, it wouldn't stop me from listening to what they're saying. And I feel like some people shut off the conversation at that. Oh, we're just going to stop here. And like, there's a lot more to go through in order to, I don't know, you know, it'd be like, I don't know, imagine a therapist being like, oh, you know what? I understand that you're really hurt from like the abuse that you had to deal with later, but you punched a person in the face. So we're going to stop there. That's it. I'm not going to go to try to further your healing or anything like that. I'm going to stop the conversation right here because you did something that you shouldn't have. And that's just crossing the line. And I feel like as people, we can do a little bit better than that. You know, I mean, we can still continue to listen to people, even when they don't do things that we agree with, just because we care and we want to try to help them. We want to try to fix the situation and we want to make things better. So,
and you said something, you used the analogy of the therapist and like you said, the phrase, further your healing. Like, so obviously, like, I feel like a lot of people are expecting like, well, it's a black problem. Let the black people fix it. And that's just not real. So how could people like me or Taylor or people who aren't like necessarily people of color, like help further that and help like heal those wounds, like in whether communities or like friendships or whatever.
I mean, man, to me, like it's like goes back to just conversations, you know, like, you know, talk to people of color. I mean, you'd be amazed at how strange it is sometimes for people to get outside of that bubble, you know. They're like used to talking to certain groups of people. Like, I mean, and this happens with my friends and I'm sure it happens with me, is that like we're used to talking to people that live on the north side of Colorado Springs.
Sure.
And so when I go down south typically to get haircuts, right? Because that's where most of the black barbers are. And so like I get to like, that's my little bit of a connection to that group of people. But you can't imagine how many people I tell that to and they're like, oh my gosh, you go like south of Platte. Like, oh, dude, right. Like, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, don't be afraid to have that conversation. Don't be afraid to get to know a culture that's different than yours. I mean, I feel like it's such a weird thing that we do that. We are so okay with it when it's like white culture, you know what I mean? Yeah. But when it's other cultures, we kind of get like, I don't know, I've seen countless videos of people that get upset with like Mexicans for speaking Spanish.
Right. Their language.
Like, like, you know, but I have friends that are, you know, German and Italian. And they teach their kids German and Italian. Yeah. You know, I've yet to see videos where it's like someone's talking in German and a person walks up and is like, this is America. We speak English here. Don't speak your German. You know what I'm saying? But like you speak Spanish and all of a sudden we've got an issue. Yeah. Mexico is right below us. Like, like Germany isn't anywhere near here, you know? Like, so I don't know. It's just getting like learning other cultures, talking to people that have a different culture. I mean, and even like groups of white people have different cultures. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, for me growing up in the area that I live in, like I am forced to get to know different white cultures because I live around so many white people, you know? But in order for them to understand black culture, they would have to like come to not only like hang out with my family, but we'd have to like go back to New York where some of my family lives, or Virginia, or like they'd have to come with me to that barbershop south of Platte. I remember the first time I took Hannah to a black barbershop because I had to get my hair cut for a wedding, and she was you could tell she was like a little bit nervous. You
And
know what I mean?
Hannah's your
Because
wife.
Hannah's my wife. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Hannah's my wife. And you could tell that she was a little bit nervous sitting there in like her sundress and everything like that. And I mean, me and my barber were just joking around, talking about all different like types of things and everything. But I kind of felt bad for her because we were out of town. So it wasn't like she could go somewhere else. We were stuck together essentially. But I think that was kind of an eye opener for her as well. So, and my wife is white, if you can't tell. So yeah, but
The brother-in-law thing may have.
might have. I don't know. I don't know if you figured that out yet, but yeah, hopefully you did. So
Yeah. Well, that's inspiring. Just to have more conversations about it, and I'm always thankful to be able to talk to you about it, and a few other people that I know. And we talked about Jay Gatz, my mentor, who's an awesome guy that runs Real Black Menswear. We had a really great talk about just the Black culture and style, and how that's like been really kind of pushed aside. And one of the craziest things, sorry, this is a little off topic, I guess.
Go for it.
But one of the craziest things was just that thinking about that the Black community didn't have like a style icon until the 50s, when Black people were legally allowed on TV. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas like white culture has like everyone, has always had somebody.
Yeah.
And like, it's just crazy to me because like the 50s don't seem that long ago to me. You know?
I know. My parents were born in the 50s. So
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, so yeah.
So it's just wild to hear that perspective, and like how, even Frank Sinatra, who's known as one of the most styled people in the world, his main inspiration was Nat King Cole, which is a jazz musician, and nobody gives Nat King Cole the credit for basically teaching Sinatra how to dress. And that's just wild to me, you know what I mean? And so like one of the things that we as a brand really try to do is embrace all the cultures that we can, like Black culture and Italian culture and English culture and Parisian culture and things like that. And like, just find the amazing style aspects in every single one. Yeah. But in the research into the Black culture, for me personally, it's just so staggering how little there is documented on it. Yeah. As opposed to everyone else. Yeah. And for me personally, the Black culture is one of my favorite stylized people, in the world. It's like, I love Nat King Cole and Miles Davis and Sammy Davis Jr. And those guys are such a huge inspiration to me. Yeah. And Quincy Jones, what a guy. And it's just crazy because some of these people listening to this won't know who those people are because they're not put in the spotlight as much as like a Frank Sinatra or Cary Grant. You know? And anyways, I don't really know where I was going with that, but it's kind of a sad sentiment, but also something in the light of everything is just something to look at too. It's just like, let's honor these guys and like, let's start putting them in the spotlight. And one of the things I'd like to say, it's not too late to do any of this. Yeah. It's not too late to start having conversations. No. It's not too late to start asking questions. It's not too late to just be inspired by something different. Yeah.
And I mean, appreciation, just to be clear, and if you guys don't agree, like we can talk about it, and I think that'd be a fun conversation. But like, appreciation does not equal appropriation to me. Yeah.
And it's a celebration, I want to say, like, of culture, and something that we were talking about in our last podcast was just a lot of just anger from my mentor Jay Gatz. It was just that like Luca Rubinacci, who's just an incredible art director, like people kind of look at him as the main menswear guy when they should look at him as the main Italian menswear guy. You know what I mean? And then like separately with like Savile Row, they should be looked at the main English menswear guys. And then we should have like, who's representing the main Black culture menswear guys, like who is it? And that's crazy because we know all these names and we don't have that, and it should be celebrated. Like we should be able to equally celebrate all these people from where they came from and why they're doing what they're doing, and
how some styles get like stolen essentially. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
for sure.
I mean, I guess what's the word that you would use? Like inspired kind of thing. But and it's like, I wouldn't say appreciation equals appropriation either. I feel like the appropriation talk gets like really wiggly to me. And so it's kind of tough, and it is a weird balance, but like, I agree that you can appreciate things and not saying that you're like appropriating it. You know, like the Frank Sinatra example of, you know, being inspired by Nat King Cole. You know what I mean? Like, could that have technically been called appropriation? Maybe. And there may be some people that would view it that way because, but I feel like a lot of reasons why they might feel that way is because Nat King Cole never got any credit. You know what I mean? And so it's like, so now it feels like, well, we're giving all the credit to this person, and this person that actually started the thing, you know, we don't even recognize them for it. And so that's where it feels like you appropriated it because, you know,
like there's no callback, because
there was no there's no callback to where it came from.
Well, that's a really great distinction, and that's something that I've always kind of struggled with personally. Was I don't know where the line is of like appropriation. You know, like I hear people say like, oh, where this TV show has a black best friend for the main character, that's appropriation. And the first thing, and this might just be naive, because the first thing I thought when I heard that someone say that, I was like, well, what if he just has a black best friend? You know what I mean? I was just like, I have a really great black best friend. I don't want him to be on my show. You know? Like, and I don't think anything else around that, but that might just be naive. But like, I've always kind of wondered where that line is. And I think that you hit it perfectly with the celebration of it. And I think that always comes back to a celebration of culture, which is something I always say. And it's, let's celebrate Frank Sinatra style, but let's also appreciate that it came from Nat King Cole. Right. And like, let's celebrate just all of music that everyone loves. You know? Like, we haven't even really touched on music, but let's just talk about how everything we do is influenced from Black culture's music.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I know, because isn't Elvis Presley one of the ones that that stole a lot of their, like, all of his, like almost his musical style and like dancing and everything like that from like Black culture. And it's like now Elvis Presley gets to be lifted up as this like, you know, the king of rock and roll or whatever he was at the time. And then it's like, but you know, like there were a lot of people at that moment in time that were like, oh man, this song was so great. You know what we're going to do? We're going to buy the rights for your song, and then we're going to have this person sing it. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like,
which in Elvis's case, like that happened. Right. You know, I think one of his, I forget the name of the song, but one of his first songs was a gospel hymn that he made into a rock song. Really? And yeah, like, and like there was no, like you could say a product of the times or something like that, but like even today, like there's no callback to that original song and where that came from and the culture that's rooted in. Yeah. And
so, well, it's something that we need to just be aware of, I think, because that happened with Jack Daniel's whiskey too. Like the most popular whiskey of all time, you know, arguably, is Jack Daniel's, and it came from the recipe of his distiller, which was a black guy, and he basically just took the recipe from him and made Jack Daniel's.
I had no idea.
Did not know that.
Yeah, and so we basically have whiskey from this really cool black dude that invented it. You know what I mean? And nobody knows that. They know the name Jack Daniels, who we assume is a white guy because he is a white guy. Yeah. So,
and I think that to me is like the difference between like appreciation and appropriation, right? Is that like, I think that's some of the things that, some of the frustrations that like Black people have dealt with, is that, you know, yes, when it's our culture and everything like that, you're willing to take it and steal it, but like us, you know what I mean? Like you view as an issue, you know what I mean? But like these things are okay. Music is great, you know, like this is so much fun, you know what I mean? The dancing and all that stuff and all that weird, like, oh, that's fun. But
if a black person's coming towards me on the sidewalk, I might move over to the other side.
You know what I mean? Or you know what? Like, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that like rap, and I have mixed feelings on rap now. When I was younger, I used to love rap a lot more. But again, I was trying to force myself into appearing like a black person, I guess. I don't know how to do this, but yeah. Air quotes. Yeah.
That's what you just
Seriously, yeah.
I'm doing air quotes right now.
Yeah, so I listened to it a lot more then because it connected me to like black culture. But I don't know. It's like now a lot of people love rap. It's becoming more and more popular. I don't always agree with it, but like those people come from a lot of that brokenness that we then punish them for later on when they have confrontations with police essentially. Yeah. So I don't know. And I mean, I'll say also I've had like a privileged life. Like I live, my parents are, I would consider middle class, like securely, maybe even close to upper middle class. But my dad grew up on welfare. And so that's part of the lesson that I have when dealing with some of this is like hearing the way that he talked about his life, and how he talked about being basically raised on the streets, having to like learn how to fight for himself. And I mean, his dad wasn't there all the time, but his dad was with him for a while. And I can remember him telling stories of, trying not to get into fights, like walking home from school, trying not to get into fights, but then realizing that, like the bullies never like leave you alone kind of thing. Like if you're the one that tries to run away from a confrontation, then they find you because they know that rather than, fighting them, you're going to give up your shoes or whatever, you know what I mean? You're going to give up that thing that they want to have kind of thing. And so, he had to learn to become a fighter in this environment, which is kind of tough for him. And so I don't know. I don't know all of that life or that culture, but like I hear a lot of stories from my parents, and that's what kind of helps me to have a better connection and understand, like, hey, these are where the like frustrations come from, that like they're constantly dealing with this, I was talking to him the other day and he was like, he was talking about people being in poverty and like the things, and we all kind of understand that crime happens more when people are in poverty. And one thing that he pointed out that I never paid attention to is that, yeah, a lot of these people are broke, but who's hiring is gangs. They need people to do like all these things that, hold on to these little things of drugs for me because I don't want to get caught with it. They're hiring, and that if you want to get out of poverty, you need money. And so sometimes you can't always get, yes, is it probably a bad decision to get in? Yeah. But you can't always get the job that you want to get. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes you got to take what's hiring at that moment and what will give you money now so that you can help, feed your family.
Yeah. Would you say that is a part of the like systematic issue, or do you think it's separate?
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, I won't go into like the depth of the systematic issue because I'm sure most people have seen the videos, and if not, then go find one, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, I feel like the biggest disconnect that I've had with people that like don't believe in systemic racism is that they think that all you have to do now is make a good decision and then you'll be done.
I've seen that a lot too.
And it's like, I don't think they understand how hard it is at times to make a good decision, and this is where it comes back to like the whole peer pressure thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you've got people around you that are telling you to do these things, you know what I mean? And when you try to step out on your own, you know what I mean? You have to worry about getting beat up every day, you know what I mean? Because you're not a part of this group that will protect you from that, you know what I mean? And so then, like, if you fall to the peer pressure, then you potentially have set yourself on a life that you can't recover from, you know what I mean? If you don't fall from the peer pressure, then you have to be incredibly strong on your own, essentially, sometimes.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens, you know? And so, can people make a good decision? Sure. But I feel like we can't act like that decision is always easy to make.
Especially if you're desperate.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know, the people that I typically, and I mean, there are probably people in the ghetto or whatever, or the projects that don't agree with what I'm saying right now. And like, that's fine. they have a right to their opinion and they can believe what they want to believe, but it won't stop me from listening and having some type of compassion for that person, because they did, no matter what that person says, even if they don't believe in systemic racism, I can guarantee that they've probably had a harder life than I have. And that's just true because of where they were raised.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, not a lot of people know this about my story, but I grew up in, for my high school years, I grew up in Deltona, Florida, which is like the ghetto, one of the many ghettos in Florida. And when I went to high school, like the white people were kind of the minority there. We made up about 25% of the high school population. And then there's 50% blacks, and then another 25% Hispanic and Mexican population. And I don't know, it's something that I don't think I realized until years later in my life, that I think I was like seeing a lot of that, because I would get jumped by the black gangs in Florida all the time. I remember I remember a specific story one time where I was very depressed at this time too. I was about 300 pounds when I was around 15 years old. And I like had this like bag of cookies or something. And this like 6'5" black guy came up and he's like, "Hey, give me your cookies." Like literally this is a conversation. And I was like, no, I just said no. Like had no idea he was connected to this gang in school. And I was just like, no, I won't. And he's just like, all right. And he like kind of walks away. The school bell rings. I like go out from this portable, which is just like this, like, box with like a stairs to it pretty much from this classroom. I like walk down these stairs and there's just 5 dudes waiting for me at the end of the stairs. And then they just continue to beat the crap out of me. Yeah. And then, just because I didn't share some cookies, and it's wild because I saw that like so often with so many people through high school. And it's one of the reasons that made me just become like a complete introvert at the time and like not go out of my house or like leave anywhere. But it's just crazy to hear you describe the systemic racism and then just kind of, and I'm sure it wasn't even close to as bad as it is in the projects and stuff. I'm not saying that like Deltona wasn't bad or anything, but like I'm sure it's worse places. And just seeing that firsthand and experiencing like seeing the different gangs and luckily not being like recruited into it, but seeing how easy it could have been just from the peer pressure and like just from the people that were involved around me. It's not as black and white of a decision like you're saying. And I think a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah. And I mean, I commend you on like not taking that experience and then like pushing that onto all black people, because there are people that do that too, that would have that situation happen to them and say like, this is how black people are, you know what I mean? And not understanding that that's how those black people are, because obviously I am completely different from that, you know what I mean? And so like, that's the tough part that we're dealing with. I think with systemic racism as well, is because it's like, or maybe that's a white privilege. I don't know, but that bias that you kind of have that, black people are like violent. I would argue that I'm probably one of the least violent people that most people know. I mean, do I get angry? Of course, but you know what I mean? So it's not a trait that's with all people. It's really more so a trait of like what's going on in your life. Yeah. And I think one time I heard a quote that was just, I think perfect for some of that situation, which is that,
Dear Lord.
I'm
so sorry.
No problem. But yeah, the quote that I heard that I think that explains that situation a lot is that, hurt people kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I'm not going to try to justify what he did, you know what I mean? But it's like, how did he get to that situation that like he felt like that was appropriate? You know what I'm saying? You know, like,
or even maybe his only option.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't know what his life is like, you know what I'm saying? But that's the point, is that like, I don't want to condemn like him just because of like his life that's led him into this hard place potentially, or maybe he really just is a bad person. I don't know. But you know what? The only way that I can figure that kind of thing out is if I have a conversation or like get to know him a little, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, hey, or somebody's got to have a conversation to kind of understand, like, dude, what's going on here, man? Like, this is a problem. You can't go around beating people up for cookies.
Right.
You know, like that's not a way to sustain like a healthy life. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
And I think the whole idea of like, oh, all Asian people are this way, all Black people are this way, all Hispanic people are this way, is like your world is just so small.
Right.
Like, like there is, what's that?
That was my turn to drop something.
We're just dropping our phones left and right. But like, if you take the time to have those conversations, get out of your sphere, you will like, it'll be impossible for you to say like, oh, all X are, you know, fill in the blank, you know, it's because like each one of us is unique and our own personality, our own story. And that goes for anybody. It doesn't matter what your skin color is or what your background is. Everyone has their own story, even like people who do some racist stuff. Yeah. You know, like I'm not going to even like justify that action, but like they have a story as well. And like I believe, and I'd love to get your guys' ideas on this as well, but like I believe that there's way more that could bring us together than divide us as humans. It's just like a lack of empathy, a lack of exposure, a lack of willingness, maybe. I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've been called different names. I've been called like the N-word. My dad, like I said, my dad grew up in a place where he had to learn to fight for himself. But once he got out of that environment, you know what I mean? He has never really taught me to be that way. Like he's taught me to try to be strong, but not necessarily to fight. So, and one of the lessons that I remember learning is that, you know, people are going to do racist stuff, you know what I mean? But like, that doesn't mean that you should flip out and go start beating people up, you know? So when I hear those stories, I don't like that either. It was always kind of just information, you know, someone says something racist to me. It's like, okay, that's how you feel. I'm going to remember that about you. And so when even those people that have been racist to me before, like it didn't stop me from being in a room with them. It didn't stop me from even trying to talk to them to, you know, because I might be the one good like Black person that's treated them kindly because I don't know their story. You know, they might have been beat up as a kid for cookies. You know what I'm saying? And so they've now, as a child, they've learned this thing that, you know, Black people do this. And now they see me and they're like, oh, well, none of them are good, you know? And it's like, which is another burden, unfortunately, a lot of times for like people of color, because those stereotypes don't typically get placed onto like white groups, you know? And so they get placed onto Black groups. So I very much understand that living where I do, I'm one of the very few Black people that people see in person. So I almost always feel a little bit of a pressure to try to be, I don't know, like good, I guess is the word, you know what I'm saying? Because I know that this is going to be one of the few interactions that they have with a Black person probably in the next few days, in the next few weeks. And if I'm not, then that's fine. It doesn't matter my actions. But if it is, then like my actions are even more important. You know? And so I feel like that's kind of a tough thing.
And what an amount of pressure to have on yourself just to exist.
Like
wow.
Like a follow-up question for that is like, how do you, like, so I can imagine some people, I'm feeling this way now, just like in my head of just like, that shouldn't even be a thing, you know, like you're just a person, you know, like carrying, I don't know if this is an ignorant way to say this, but carrying like the weight of your race for these white people or others that are around, that you have to like behave in a certain way and conduct yourself in a certain way, like almost like for them. Like, like is,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know exactly
Yeah.
what I'm trying to ask.
I think
but
I get what you're trying to say is that like essentially I'm behaving so that they can get over their own biases
right.
at times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I've like I said, this is why I don't get frustrated by this because I feel like this has been my life. I mean, I've lived in Colorado Springs for most of my life. So I don't know. Maybe I don't have to act this way. Maybe I could be more, but I don't know. I've just seen too many of people talking about the angry black man stereotype or the belligerence, you know what I mean? Or the angry black woman stereotype. So for me, it's hard to, I mean, it's who I am now, you know what I mean? Because I've conditioned myself to be like this, but it's hard to even think of trying to act any other way, knowing that, man, if I were to be that way, then that might be the opinion that they have because now I'm literally like the only black person that they've seen, you know? So it's, I don't know. It's, I don't know. It's just how I've always felt.
Yeah.
I've always kind of had that pressure, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's a good thing necessarily, but like, it's just how I live. And it is kind of how I try to teach like my kids to be, you know, to make sure that like, hey,
more of maybe a responsibility.
Right.
In your point of view.
Yeah. And I think it's on us too about how to communicate with, you know, other white people as well, that like people are just individuals.
Yeah.
They're not like attached to a race or into a stereotype or whatever. Yeah. They come from a different culture, which should be again celebrated. But like, just because like me personally, I've had a bad experience with a lot of different black gangs and people, it didn't like scar me, you know, from that stuff. And it's because of exactly what Chaz says is like the very first thing that I thought of was just more of just like, man, that guy must have really needed to get something out. Like he must be in a lot worse of a mental place than me, you know? I didn't think that in the moment. But you know, afterwards it was easy to reflect on because I just like, what a ridiculous situation I was just involved in. You know what I mean? And as long as you can stop it there, I think that's okay. But for anyone that has a similar experience like me, just think of it as that particular individual. And then whether you believe in forgiveness or not is the next step. But the first thing I'd just say is like, don't let it affect your view of the whole picture because it's not the whole picture. It's just a very tiny piece of it. You know?
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like that's just the problem is that, I mean, even me, I'm a small picture, you know, of black people. I'm not all black people. I don't know what to tell you.
But you're acting like you are though. Right. In some of these situations you're just describing. And that's what I was saying. The pressure of that is wild. Like I'm so sorry that you have to deal with that every day.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I've never had to deal with that. I don't know if you've ever had to deal with any sort of pressure like that. Like the worst pressure I got was to get good grades because my mom was Japanese. Yeah. And I think that's how she was raised, you know?
I think the closest you and I have felt probably that's similar is regarding our tattoos.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'll be in a business meeting and I'll put I have a hand tattoo. He has way more tattoos than me, but sometimes I'll like put my hand in my pocket to like conduct a meeting or like, you know what I mean? And it's,
you want to project like,
and I'm not trying to
it's
compare.
Not the same.
It's not even close to the same thing whatsoever.
Not at all.
All I was trying to say is that's the closest experience personally that I think that I've had of trying to like hold something back. Because a lot of tattooed people are like criminals, you know what I mean?
It's like, I've never been to prison. I'm at church. Like,
I go to church.
I've been going here for 15 years. But nowhere near
it, but that's
as close as we've gotten.
Yeah, I think so. That's all I meant to say.
That's good.
Oh man. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much. I mean, do you have any kind of closing thoughts about maybe some just mental health tips, I guess, for just people of color or like us that are just see this kind of the Black Lives Movement just all over our feeds all the time, just people are talking about it a lot. How can we kind of like take these conversations and instead of feeling the weight of these conversations, feel more hopeful for change? from like a mental health standpoint.
I mean, I think we're already like progressing a little bit. I'm not going to say that we've fully taken a step yet, but I feel like what happened with, especially the George Floyd situation and all the others around that time period of COVID, it did open up a lot more people for conversation. You know what I'm saying? And so, again, if I could say anything, it's conversation. You got to talk to people, And so if you're dealing with a mental health, like and it takes a lot of energy, to try to have these conversations or to, look at your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed a lot of times. So, I mean, definitely take time to yourself, make sure that you're okay. Take some deep breaths, step away if you need to. And I mean, for me personally, I don't know if it's the best strategy, but I only have conversations with select people, like and not even like once a week, like maybe once a month or something like that. I'll say like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about this post that you made, just because you can't fix all of it right away. This is like a baby step type of thing. And, especially when it's like changing hearts, man, and I know people say like only Jesus can change hearts, and that's true. But sometimes, Jesus uses people in order to get you there. So like not most of the time, it's not like, oh, boom, Jesus just changed my heart. Did you see that?
Did you see that? Everything's okay.
Like, I feel like, in order for that to happen, sometimes you got to get into those tough conversations, and you, again, Jesus might be, and God might be working through you in order to do that. But I mean, you've got to be strong enough to handle it. You've got to have the energy to do it. And like I said, I don't do this I don't have conversations with everybody.
Yeah.
I pick a few select people and I'm like, oh, hey, this is someone, that I care for, and they have this opinion. Maybe I should just go ahead and, hey, how are you doing? I wanted to talk to you about this thing that you posted, and then they can get upset. Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to let you know how I felt, because again, I might be the only Black person that you actually know. I don't know, or I might be one of the few. I might be the only one that's having this conversation with you right now. And so I just wanted you to let you know how I feel. If you don't care, that's fine. You don't have to care about me. Like I've got plenty of people that I love in my life that are strong with me, my wife, my family and everything like that. So I've got plenty of people that help take care of me. I just wanted you to reach out to you to try to bring you into that circle. And if you don't want to, that's okay. We don't have to, but take care of yourself, take a deep breath. And, we're slowly, I don't know if I'd call it a baby step, but we're starting to move. So we just got to keep trying to have those conversations and keep trying to talk to people and keep loving people, kind of thing. Because I know that's something that I've said to you guys before too, which is like, it's not worth losing my family over, you know what I mean? Like, yes, I want to have these conversations with you, but if we're never going to talk again, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to get you to understand me any better that way either, so I don't want to lose you. I just want you to know how I feel. I want you to know that I love you. I want you to know where I'm coming from. And then hopefully we can grow. If we can't grow, eventually it's going to come back. Like this will never go away. And that's what I've learned, I guess, too, which is why I don't get frustrated, because it'll always come back. Eventually we're going to come back to this again, and we're going to have these talks again. And maybe this time, maybe the 5th time, you'll understand what I'm saying. Maybe the 7th time you'll understand. I can be patient. I'm okay. But, I'm going to still love you. I want you to keep coming and talk to me so that we can get to understand each other better. So take care of yourselves, love your family,
Yeah. Thanks so much for the wisdom, Chaz. It's been really great having you on. Like, it's been an awesome conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a huge blessing to me and very eye-opening, and I'm thankful for your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, you guys.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment down in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.